Hello, welcome to Stratos Podcast, a regular not cloud podcast about cloud.
With Vitor Domingos. And you caught me out there because you normally do the introductions. And Paul Stapley.
I just wanted to hear about you pronouncing my name because we had a lot of stuff to do today.
People insert the C. Victor. Exactly. It's not Victor. It is Vitor.
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
Vitor.
So it was fun to hear that again. So this is episode number 4.
Yep.
The last one you weren't with me because we had Jan Kritz, our group CEO, talking to me about the NordCloud values and what it is to run the company with our size around Europe. So that was kind of interesting, and it was also an experiment for us on this podcast to do something different.
Yep. Because
I know that soon it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be you interviewing one of our customers as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly right.
So
it's going
to be fun. So for today, we would have usually the 2 topics, but I think that we're going to have one major topic just to discuss today, which is about the cloud economics.
Okay, yeah.
So what it is that about, and what do you understand by cloud economics? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, okay, so cloud economics is an interesting one. I think a lot of people think of it just as TCO, total cost of ownership, and so they obviously... you'll often hear people making that comparison between, what is it going to cost me to run my operations in the cloud versus my operations on-prem or on the current provider. Mm-hmm. And of course, that is a natural thing to do because you're looking to understand, can you save some money? And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people naturally assume when they talk about the cloud. But of course, there's a lot of considerations to really consider. Considerations to consider, of course. The most important thing here is that if you're just really making that comparison between your direct cost of compute, storage, networking, database, whatever it happens to be, you're probably not going to get to that point where you can convince people in your organization that it is cheaper to run in the cloud, but that's probably missing the point. I think really...
But also that doesn't provide you the whole picture, right?
It doesn't, no, absolutely.
It's not just that.
It isn't just that. Of course, there isn't just that part. There is, of course, the staffing cost. There is the management costs and so on. But actually, I think really the business case needs to sort of take on board that going to cloud offers you the ability to be much more agile in terms of how you serve your organization. And what does that actually mean in real terms? It means that, you're really providing an infrastructure and a capability to support your business growth and your business ambitions. Yeah. Just because of the nature of the number of services that are available now and the way that you consume and pay for those just means that you can do a lot more without, I suppose, the caveats and the downfalls that you would have had in the traditional CapEx world where you're really looking.
That's how the whole cloud economics started. Yeah. Right. So moving from how you actually consume from a CapEx point of view to an OpEx. So CapEx is capital expenditure.
Yes.
So did you need to put money up front to pay for something, and OpEx is more operational, right? So you just pay for whatever you consume. And
exactly.
It's more
exactly.
So that is the big premise of cloud.
Yes.
Right? So when you move to the cloud computing, everyone talks about TCO. I think Amazon started with their own kind of formulas, right? You can have the cost of running a data center plus the operational cost of actually resources doing whatever, the air conditioning, everything that was included there. So you can have this kind of picture and comparison between how it is to run on the data center and how it is to run on the cloud. But as you said, it's just way more than that. It's everything that's around it, but also the future capability for you to do something else, the agility for you to work on better and faster projects.
Exactly right, and I think therefore of course that also incurs some. You go away from your CapEx cost model, but what you do enter into is okay. There is some potentially application modernization cost. There is a bubble of cost that you might need to undertake to leverage the ability to get those lower costs and that agility, because you then rebuilt your services to take advantage of those native cloud services, and so that all needs to be taken into account. There's a lot of component parts, but I think really cloud economics has to go beyond the OPEX versus CAPEX discussion. It definitely has to talk about how do you make your company competitive when you're up against new competition that doesn't have a legacy, old way of working, old IT legacy. They're coming in perhaps straight with the cloud. So you've really got to think, and you've got to think about all your applications, your products. You've got to think about the life cycle of those. But which ones would you invest in? Which ones would you wouldn't? It's a whole business case as opposed to just an IT business case.
It is, but then also from the technical point of view, is also how do you want to consume those resources in the future, right? Because if you're going to spend a lot of money just to keep your operations on your own data center, you already spent that money, so you need to use it. But you're not sure if you're going to fully utilize the resources that you have. When you move to the cloud, actually you can plan that in a different way, right? Yep. So you have the peaks, you have a different way to manage those resources. You can scale up and scale down accordingly to your needs or whatever the market tells you to scale. That's also part of the cloud economics. So the way that you operate in the cloud, not just when you move or when you run it, but actually how you leverage your resources up and down accordingly to whatever you need. That changed also the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty, is that you're getting away from wasted capacity. Overcapacity, undercapacity. You can completely move away from that with the elasticity features of the cloud, which is really takes some of that risk out of trying new things, of course. I just feel that this has gone beyond just traditional IT budget and traditional IT staffing costs. It's really gone into looking at how do you support your business going forward.
It is.
That's really
it is. And if you look at we can go into details on how to run resources in the cloud, if they are going to be multi-tenant or single tenant, all of that kind of technical issues. But one thing I really find curious about how the cloud evolved is how we got some stuff from the old world into the new world. So we imagine a few years ago, we were just consuming resources with a pay-as-you-go kind of option, right?
Yeah.
But then, because more traditional companies, the enterprise world went into the cloud, they need to reserve or buy resources up front instead of just consume to pay-as-you-go. They had to go, we're going to have some compliance issues to fulfill. So we need single tenant machines. So we need hardware dedicated to us. So there's a lot of stuff that we brought from the old world on-premise to the cloud, and also that changed the whole cloud economics, how we consume that, right? So we have the option of pay upfront for a resource for 3 years, right? That's really good. If we don't use a resource, we can resell that on the market to a low price for someone that can buy that. So the whole thing changed, and if you are really compliant with some stuff that we need to do, we can buy the entire section of whatever exists on the cloud just for us to be single tenant.
Yes.
That change, which is kind of fun, how the market in the cloud also evolves, right? Because we need to adapt, and what the market is telling is that, we don't like on-premise, we want to go to the public cloud, but we want some stuff from the on-premise world that we need to bring along. So that we can operate better in the cloud, this kind of cloud economics market.
I think that seems perfectly reasonable to me and natural, and that's the evolution of the whole, that sort of pure ethos, I guess, always is tested by real market conditions and real customer needs. So, and that's and those providers are responding to that. So they understand that if they're going to accelerate the migration to their platforms, then they're going to have to bring out those types of services.
One of the questions that I think we get a lot asked when we talk to clients, but also when you go to conferences and stuff like that. I remember that in the beginning, everyone was telling, if I'm going to move to the cloud, it's going to be cheaper. But then people start saying, if you're going to move to the cloud, could be cheaper. It depends on the kind of options that you can go, right? But it's going to bring you more agility to your business.
Yes.
Because what happened was running in a cloud environment, we know that it's going to be cheaper upfront when you do this kind of transition, and we can discuss that transition in another episode, how we're going to transition that. But what the cloud gives us is the infinite capability to expand automatically.
Yes.
Whatever we have.
Yes.
And if that thing is not monitored, if that thing is not properly managed, then the cost will obviously overrun whatever we have on premise.
Absolutely. I don't think you can get away from that. And I think we might have talked about that in previous episodes, is the governance is so very important.
Yeah.
It is truly wonderful to have, the ability to self-serve, as it were. But of course, that can get out of hand, and you do need to make sure that you've got your policies and your governance in place. Otherwise, you are going to have a surprise at the end of every month. That is absolutely the case. But I think that's fine, and I think that you must just walk into cloud adoption with your eyes open, and that's why it is so important to ensure that you have a plan and make sure that you've got a steering group or a competence center, or whatever you want to call it, an operating model. Those things are so very important. Otherwise, of course, things run away, starts to get a bad name. Everyone starts to question why we did it this way and overlooks all of the other benefits. So, these things go hand in hand.
Okay. So just to end that topic, and just probably to talk about the next ones that we're going to have in the next episode, some best practices when we move to the cloud, still staying on the cloud economics kind of subject. We already mentioned that we need to stay on top of the budget, how we're going to consume that.
Yes.
Not just how much we're spending, but how we actually utilizing the entire infrastructure, because we can go up and we can go down.
Yep.
That also will affect the budget at the end, but we need to control those two, right? The budget and the utilization. And then how can we re-engineer our operations? You mentioned about application. How we're going to look at applications. They need to transform. They need to be re-platform. We need to think about that as well. So it's not just one thing fits all.
No, it's not just a move. It is an opportunity to really review all of those applications and just work out, is there a better way of doing this? Are there new services that we can adopt? And again, from a cost, but also from an agility perspective, because agility is the key word here, I think.
Exactly. Agility as well. You mentioned that correctly. Two last, I would say best practices. The first one is look at reserved instances. We already mentioned that.
Yes.
Buy upfront if you can.
Yes.
And the last one, because it's gonna connect to the next topic, will be about automation.
Yes.
Right. So we can discuss about infrastructure as a code, but think about automation. Leverage everything that you can have within the platform to be automated from the start. That's also a good practice. It's also going to bring a lot of agility to your business as well.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So next topic, next episode, actually, we're going to discuss about automation.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
And containers.
Okay.
I think it's a buzzword.
Yes.
A lot of marketing around containers. I remember containers in the early days of the Solaris and stuff like that. They were called zones, not containers. So I'm gonna bring my background and my skepticism about containers, but we're going to talk about automation and containers on the episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it sounds good. I mean, automation again is one of those things that we built our company on in terms of bringing best practice to our clients. And I think all of these things go hand in hand. So great topic, well worth exploring.
Excellent.
Good.
See you on the next episode.
Thanks, Victor. Not
Bye.
Victor.